Hey guys, it's been several months since I came back to Canada after spending 2 years on the JET program. I went on the JET program from 2018 to 2020, and I thought I wanted to make this video to share my experiences. In this video, I want to split it into multiple parts. First part, I want to talk about the Tokyo orientation. Second part, I want to talk about my placement. Third part, I want to talk about some experiences I had while teaching. And the last part, I want to talk about a personal self-reflection of my time on the program. Okay, let's talk about Tokyo orientation. So my flight from Canada to Japan was about 9 to 10 hours. As soon as we landed in Narita Airport, there were many JET program staff who guided us through the airport. At one point at the airport, you could actually send some of your luggage directly to your placement because we had a limit to how much we could bring with us to the hotel for the orientation. So the Tokyo orientation was at the Keio Plaza Hotel, which is a really nice hotel. So from the airport, we would have to take a bus to the hotel. And I remember when we got outside before getting on the bus, Tokyo was really hot and humid that day. It was in the middle of the summer and it was about 41 degrees Celsius and it was humid. When we arrived at the hotel, we were immediately shuffled into a room and a lot of staff gave us an explanation about what was going to happen over the next 2 days at orientation. They gave us a lot of information, pamphlets, and documents. For example, they gave us this, which is a schedule, and inside you could see the information of what kind of talks was going to happen. If you look at the back though, this was the schedule. And so it might not be that clear, but over the next 2 days, the schedule was packed full of lectures and talks. So you could imagine right after the flight, we were all jet lagged and then we had to attend for the next 2 days, talks back to back. However, there was one night of your orientation though that we could meet with other jets from our prefecture and our placement, which I thought was really nice. Other than that, I think because of the jet lag, I couldn't really enjoy Tokyo orientation and there's just a lot to sit through and a lot of information being thrown at you. So it was kind of hard to absorb that information right after we got off the plane. I can say though that the food was really good at the hotel. It was buffet, all you can eat. After the orientation finished, we gathered with all the other jets from our prefecture. We took a bus from the hotel to Haneda Airport, and then from Haneda Airport we took an airplane to go to our prefecture. And then once we arrived in our prefecture, we took a bus to go to our placements. Okay, for my placement, I was placed in Akita City, located in Akita Prefecture in the Tohoku region of Japan. So the population of Akita City is about 300,000, so it's relatively small. Akita Prefecture shares borders with Aomori Prefecture, Iwate Prefecture, Yamagata Prefecture, and Miyagi Prefecture. Even though Akita City is the biggest city in Akita Prefecture, it still feels a little bit countryside, or in Japanese, inaka. Looking back, I really enjoyed being placed in Akita City. Akita City has a slow-paced, relaxed kind of lifestyle. Whenever I went to Tokyo, everyone's always in a rush. It feels very fast-paced. It feels that you can never catch your breath. But in Akita City, it's completely the opposite, and I really enjoyed that slow-paced lifestyle. I felt less stressed, to be honest. For my placement, we weren't allowed to drive to school, so either we had to take public transit, walk, or bike. It is important to note that depending on your placement, the Board of Education may allow you to drive, or they may not allow you to drive. So that's important to keep in mind. Despite not having a car, I did really enjoy biking, especially in the spring and summer seasons when the weather was nice. Every morning, I would be biking along a river and the scenery was just fantastic. Although in the winter, it does snow a lot in Akita, it was especially hard sometimes to take public transit because sometimes the buses would be late and also it was very cold. Even though we didn't have cars, my jet friends in the city, we would all be within 20-30 minutes of biking distance from each other. So it wasn't that bad, to be honest. And additionally, surrounding our area, we would have a lot of restaurants to eat at. So we would have like ramen, curry, tonkatsu, and a lot of other foods. Eating in Japan is especially cheap because you don't have to tip. And also, for example, if you eat like a big bowl of ramen, it's around 800 yen, which is a really good price. It seems that not many tourists go to the Tohoku region of Japan. If you ever come to Japan, I highly recommend that you visit Tohoku. Tohoku has so much beautiful nature. One of my highlights of my stay in Akita was going hiking with my friends to this mountain called Chokai. This mountain borders on the prefectures of Akita and Yamagata. The scenery was great and there's a nice beautiful lake, and I really enjoyed hiking there. For the jets in my city, if we wanted to go on a day trip or something, we would usually rent a car, and it's actually really cheap to rent cars in Japan for day trips. There was one time I went on a day trip with some friends to go see the cherry blossoms, and we rented a car. So we rented a car with 5 people. After we split the cost, I think we each paid about 1,300 yen each, and so it was really cheap to rent a car. For my school, I was placed in elementary school. From what I've seen, jets who learned Japanese in the past will be placed usually in an elementary school. Jets who have not learned Japanese before coming to Japan will be usually placed in junior high school or high school. Teachers in elementary schools are homeroom teachers, so they have one class and they teach all the subjects, and because of that, their English may not be that good. It's a little bit different in junior high school and high school. For example, in English class, there's an English teacher. In science class, there's a science teacher. So in junior high school and high school, the teacher who teaches English is expected to have English proficiency. Usually when you're teaching English class, you'll be teaching with the Japanese homeroom teacher if you're in the elementary school, or the Japanese teacher of English if you're in the junior high school or high school. So it depends on the Japanese teacher you're working with who will be T1 or T2. T1 just means the main teacher of the class. T2 just means the teacher who will support and assist T1. Some Japanese teachers want the jet to be T1. Some Japanese teachers want the jet to be T2. For my 2 years, I was mainly the T2 teacher. Essentially, I was the tape recorder. I would read passages from the textbook and then reread them if the students ever needed to hear it again. I would sound out words, and then the students would repeat after me. There were some instances though where I could explain, if we were doing a game, I would explain the rules of the game. Most of the teachers that I worked with are all very nice. Whenever we're discussing about the lesson plan, they're always happy to receive my input. Whenever I suggest a game or something, they're always very excited to implement it, and they always want to try it out. However, there were some teachers that I worked with that didn't really use me in the classroom. Most of the time in the class, I would be standing to the side or walking around the classroom doing absolutely nothing. Sometimes you may have those experiences, but don't let those experiences overshadow your overall experience of teaching. Generally in Asia, teachers are held to a higher respect in society compared to here in Canada. As a result, it seems that students listen more to the teacher and they are more well behaved. Of course, there will be classes where the kids are rowdy and the teachers can't control them, but overall, the kids are well behaved in Japan. I think it's also important to mention that the Japanese word for teacher or sensei is not only used for teachers, but it's also used for doctors or lawyers. Whenever you're addressing someone with the honorific of sensei, it shows that there's great respect for them in Japanese society. Before 2020, English was not an official subject in the Japanese elementary school curriculum. It was considered a katsudo or an activity. Because it was considered a katsudo or activity, that meant that English was not a priority for the Japanese elementary school teachers. So when I first started teaching, I saw that on my schedule there weren't many English classes every day, and sometimes English classes would be cancelled for other subjects or other events. Some days I would only have 1 to 2 English classes. Other days I would have 3 to 4 English classes. It really depends on the Japanese homeroom teacher. Many of the Japanese homeroom teachers that you'll be working with in elementary school, it's important to know that they actually started learning English at the junior high school level instead of the elementary school level. Because I didn't have that many English classes when English was not an official subject in the elementary school curriculum, that meant that I actually had a lot of free time for desk warming. In 2020, when English finally became an official subject in the Japanese elementary school curriculum, my schedule got a whole lot busier. Every single day I had about 5 to 6 classes compared to before when I had about 1 to 2 classes a day or 3 to 4 classes a day. So under this new curriculum, from grade 3 to grade 6, English classes will happen every single week. And if you're teaching at elementary school now, you'll be really busy. Okay, on to the last part of the video. So the JET program allowed me to make friends from all over the world. I made friends from the UK, America, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and I've made some of my best friends on this program. The JET program also allowed me to step outside of my comfort zone. I joined a dance team, and I actually never did dance before, and it was actually really hard in the beginning. But as I went along, I worked hard, and we actually performed in multiple festivals as a team. In Canada, I played the violin, and when I went to Japan, I actually joined a local orchestra. So these activities like the dance team and the orchestra, they're all conducted fully in Japanese. So when I went on the JET program, it allowed me to drastically improve my Japanese. And also at school, I would talk fully in Japanese to my teachers and the staff because they couldn't really understand English. I also took the JLPT and I passed N3 and N2. I was going to take the N1 before I left Japan, but unfortunately due to COVID, it was cancelled. Whenever I went home after work at school, I would watch a lot of Japanese media. I would watch Japanese dramas, Japanese movies, and Japanese anime. I would also read a lot of manga and light novels. So when I was studying for N3, I would read mangas such as Honey Lemon Soda. And when I was studying for N2, I would read novels such as Orange, Your Name, and Violet Evergarden. So when I was watching Japanese media and also reading a lot of manga and light novels, this drastically helped me improve my Japanese. Another aspect of the JET program that I really enjoyed was that I could travel a lot. I traveled a lot domestically within Japan. I went to other prefectures such as Hiroshima, Aomori, and Yamagata. Taking domestic flights within Japan is relatively cheap. You could also take the bullet train, but the bullet train is actually quite expensive compared to flying. I also went to Taiwan 2 times during my time on the JET program. It's really cheap to travel from Japan to Taiwan. Round trip between Japan and Taiwan is about 30,000 yen, which is really cheap. So if you come on the JET program, you could probably also travel a lot within Japan and also to other countries in Asia. Looking back on my 2 years on the JET program, I could say that I really enjoyed being on this program. I also really enjoyed living in Japan and I had a great time for my 2 years. Of course, I had a lot of ups and downs and I also didn't like the job as much, but the overall experience was great. I highly recommend that you apply for the JET program if you have any interest at all, and I'm sure that you'll have a great time. So that's all I have to say in this video. I hope that you found this informative and useful, and thank you for watching.